Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AUC's Campus Conversation. My name is Zainab Amin. I'm a professor in the Department of Mathematics and Actuarial Science and the Associate Provost for Assessment and Accreditation. I'm honored to be moderating the Campus Conversation today. It has been 3 weeks since AUC welcomed new and returning students to campus. It's utterly delightful to see students and colleagues on campus after nearly 3 semesters of online learning. While we're delighted about the return to campus, we're all aware that the pandemic is not yet over. We are aware that there has been anxiety in the return to campus, that this anxiety may continue for some time. So if you feel anxious about the return to campus, please know that you're not alone. Adjustment to change takes time, so please be patient with yourself. We're here to support each other. Today's campus conversation will focus on the mental health challenges some of us may experience as we return back to campus. And our panelists will highlight university-wide initiatives to protect the well-being of our community. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our panelists today. Dr. Carrie Forden, Professor and Chair of the Psychology Department. Dr. Ola Morsi, Chief Clinical Counselor in the Center for Student Wellbeing. Dr. Yasmin Saleh, Associate Professor of Practice in the Psychology Department. We're also delighted to have 2 graduate students from the Counseling Psychology Graduate Program on our panel. I'm pleased to introduce Amina Nasruddin and Salwa Daeber. We have questions for our panelists, and we encourage our audience today to ask questions. To ask a question, you can use the raise hand button. When I call your name, please unmute your mic and ask your question. You may also type your question in the Q&A box below. Earlier this summer, Acting President and Provost Ihab Abdelrahman formed a special task force chaired by Dr. Forden to assess psychological support needs in preparation for the return to campus. I will turn to Dr. Forden to update us on the findings and recommendations of the task force. Dr. Carrie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zainab. It was very interesting to do the survey, which hopefully some of you in the audience took part in. We mailed out a brief assessment to all the faculty, staff, graduate and undergraduate students on campus. And what we got about over 1,400 responses. And what we found was that the majority of people, a large majority, were worried about the return, and they reported feeling anxious and nervous. But of course, they also had positive feelings like being excited and happy and hopeful. The main worry that people expressed was, of course, with concerns about catching COVID or passing COVID along to their family members. There were also a lot of people concerned about other people not following the precautions, the safety precautions like wearing a mask on campus. There was also some concerns about social anxiety. People worried about being back in person for the first time in a year and a half, being back in classes. People had concerns about that. And then, of course, we've had a year and a half, going on 2 years of stress and worry and loss related to COVID. So that accumulates over time. And, that can result in a delayed stress reaction because we aren't capable of being that worried about things for that long a time. So based on what people were saying they were experiencing or feeling, thinking about the return to campus, the task force developed a series of recommendations to provide social support, psychosocial support to members of campus.
Thank you, Carrie. Dr. Ola and Dr. Yasmin. The pandemic impacted almost all areas of our lives. And we all know that everyone reacts differently and manages stress and anxiety differently. We'd like to hear from you about some common thoughts, feelings, and reactions that people may experience during this period. Maybe we can start with Dr. Ola.
Okay, so definitely this is a very wide topic, anxiety in general and dealing with stress in such this was a phase of turmoil since March 2020, when we knew about the COVID and everything was too fast and too new for us. Everything was really new. What's going on? First time to experience such a pandemic, and adjusting to such a new phase in our lives took us all a certain period of time to try to adjust. Usually, what is always stressful and what makes stress leads to more anxiety, or stress to be more chronic and starts to affect us, is when it's tending to become longitudinal, tending to become consistent. It starts doing lots of changes in our body from the biological point of view. And of course, being anxious is all about the unknown. So the uncontrollable, the unpredictable. So for how long will we be staying? For how long will we, this movement to the online will stay? Are we doomed forever? Are we stuck forever? Is this quarantine forever? So it took us like a year and a half to conform and adjust to this phase, which was like a very novel situation in our generation and even in older generations, and of course in the students' generation. So until everybody started to conform to the online, to staying at home, and this started to become like the normal that they had to start adjusting to, then came the movement that we're going back to campus. And actually, after they were pleading and craving to come back to campus, please, we want to go back face to face. We want to see our colleagues. We want to see our professors. We are wasting our years here in this online thing. We're not taking our full capacity, our full potential to learn properly. Then, oh my goodness, we're going face to face. Oh my goodness. And then it became this ambivalence and these kind of opposite feelings. And the irony became readjusting the normal. So the normality became the thing that we became, and everybody became, like afraid of, because the staying at home became like the comfort zone for a certain period of time. So definitely going back to campus was the original. We will adjust, and being anxious in the time being is definitely normal, and nobody, like switch on, switch off very easily. Of course, some people can be easier to conform and to adjust than others. Some people are more flexible than others as a personality trait, but eventually we will all adjust and be able to enjoy the pleasure of going back face to face.
Thank you, Dr. Ola. Dr. Yasmin, would you like to add anything about the common thoughts and feelings and reactions of people on campus?
Yes, definitely.
And maybe Dr. Yasmin, you can relate this to the question that we have on the Q&A. We have a question about managing the life balance, work-life balance. We have a colleague whose daughter's school started at the same time when we were back to AUC, and she found herself in a roller coaster, as she described it, and she's not enjoying it, she's not liking it, and she has some negative feelings about having to do both the work at home and the work on campus.
Definitely, and I took a brief look at the symptoms that were described, and these are very common symptoms as an emotional, physical symptom and response to stress and change. I think Dr. Ola had talked about this, the change, every change requires some form of adjustment. I would just like to highlight that we often use words like stress, worry, anxiety interchangeably, and they kind of are on the same continuum in terms of how they happen but they're slightly different in terms of the symptoms and how they manifest and how long they stay. So stress is typically caused by an external trigger. You know, stressful experience is a normal part of life. We all have deadlines. We all have something that will stress us out. You know, I'm feeling stressed today coming to this campus conversation because I'm going to have to talk to a whole bunch of strangers and tell them some interesting things about stress, but it's public speaking. I'm going to have to say things that are hopefully meaningful. And of course, there's the stress. Am I really going to say something that's meaningful? So that's stressful, but there's something that's triggering it that's kind of normal. And in some ways it helps me survive, you know, so it gives me a chance to, before the campus conversation, take some time, maybe breathe, maybe think of what I'm going to say to be able to say it succinctly and clearly. Of course, finding that balance is sort of part of the adjustment. I think that's the challenge that we all face. You know, as much as we were excited, like Dr. Ola was saying, I was excited to go back to the classroom, but obviously super nervous. I love the classroom. I love being there. I love being around students. I love that kind of connection. But at the same time, there's always that anticipation. What could happen wrong? And I think this is the thing that creates all that anxiety. Anxiety tends to be persistent because you're worrying, even though the stress may be there and there's excitement about the new thing, but you're worrying about what could go wrong. And we could talk a little bit more, but I think I'll give the floor back to you, Dr. Zainab, about some of the ways to cope with this kind of balance. And I'd love to share some more things about the symptoms and how to manage them.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin. I will turn to our students, Amina and Salwa. The survey results that Dr. Kari was referring to showed that the most common worry among students about the return to campus was social anxiety. Many students were worried that they have not been seeing people the past year and a half, and that they had lost their social skills or would be overwhelmed by social demands. I would invite you both to talk about how can we support each other as a community. How can students know that they're not alone? How can we truly be supportive listeners? How does peer support help? I will start with Amina and choose whichever you like from these questions.
Okay, yeah. I was actually one of those people who was very anxious about returning to campus. I remember when I first voiced those concerns with my colleagues, all of them, I was surprised to find that all of them actually felt that same way. So it was easier to feel like I'm not actually alone in this. And I think being supportive listeners with each other is really essential. So the first thing you should do is try to not give advice. And I know a lot of the times when we're talking, when someone comes to us and they tell us a problem, our first instinct is, okay, now I have to tell them what to do. I have to give them advice. But sometimes what people actually want is just for someone to listen to them and support them and show them empathy. So I think a lot of the times, if someone comes to you and tells you that they're anxious about something, you can just try to listen to them and show them that you understand. Salwa can...
Amina, that's very important advice. Salwa, the floor is yours.
I would like to talk a bit about support, like peer support, because I remember the first day I walked into campus, we had our first meeting, and I walked in and I felt like I don't know what to do. I'm a little bit rusty with my social skills. I felt kind of overwhelmed. But what happened was I sat there and I thought, okay, I'll just express how I feel to my peers. And I asked them, do you feel that it's different? Do you feel that it's overwhelming? And what I got was like, I felt like I'm not alone. Everyone jumped in and expressed how they felt, and I had this support from everyone, even from my professors, and always Dr. Yasmin brings in this human part of her when we're talking. It's like she's our professor, she's teaching us, but also she talks about personal things like she talked today. And this kind of support from my professors and from my peers, it kind of helped me all the way from the beginning of this my graduate studies, because we started at the onset of the pandemic. We kind of didn't see each other, and we were always online. And the first day I saw them, I told them, guys, you're 3D, actually. I can see you, like, you're not flat on a screen. And it was kind of a different experience. But when we talked about it and we supported each other, it was like more, I'm not alone. We can do this together. And I can't stress enough about peer support, because I think it starts with being supportive to your colleagues and expressing how you feel. And I think it goes both ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Salwa, very much. Dr. Forden has talked to us a little about the results of the survey, and she mentioned that when respondents were asked to describe how they feel about the return to campus, many members of the community mentioned that while they're excited, happy, and hopeful, they're also worried and nervous. We'd like to know more about the resources available to help members of the community deal with any psychological issues that arise from COVID and the return to campus. And we also have a question on the screen that is asking about what has been done or what can be done across the university and what can department leaders do. I will start with Dr. Ola, because the Center for Student Wellbeing should be the first stop for any student who is feeling anxious or stressed. Dr. Ola, we would like to know from you, how are staff at the center assisting students who may be facing increased psychological challenges in response to COVID?
So actually our center has been efficiently working. When we moved to the online, it has been actually a very successful move at the time, something that I was myself skeptical about. I was actually not sure whether the online service would actually really help students as much as the face-to-face or not. It actually helped. Now, after the change to face-to-face, we were expecting to have maybe a more influx and more requests at the beginning of the semester. And what we speculated actually happened. We have a real rush of students. Usually we have this peak starting midterms of the semester, but this time of the year, it's you can come and find queues, especially at assembly hour. So this is actually something that we're happy to happen, because we are expecting this. Everybody is ready for this. Our staff members are very trained to help students with such situations in which they are worried, they are still, like unable to adjust. And of course, we can say that if someone is already having any kind of mental health issue, that might as well be exacerbated more when we are facing some changes. So if we are already having like a major change, this might also lead the person to be having more and more need for help, need for seeing someone professional. We have increased our availabilities of all the counselors working with us. We are catering both face-to-face and online as well, because some of our students that have been more comfortable with the online, sometimes for better time arrangements. Sometimes our postgraduates would find the online better because they work or are studying part-time. So we have actually been very flexible in our counseling schedules to be able to cater all students' requests. And we are trying as much as possible not to keep any waiting list. We have a waiting list, but we are trying as much as possible to assign our students very early so as not to have any waiting list. So, of course, I cannot say that we have a specific kind of problem, but definitely coming to campus, sometimes, like they're happy that they are here. So let us, let us come and talk with a professional, just ventilating about whatever is going on in their lives. Maybe, maybe when we were at home, we wasted lots of our opportunities at AUC. Maybe, staying at home made students discover that being on campus was a blessing, and that there are lots and lots and lots of resources at AUC that they didn't make use of it. Of course, nobody will go to the well-being center unless they really need it, but this also helped to make people more aware of what they actually need, and not to be reluctant to seek help when they need it. I think this 1 year stay-at-home thing made people more aware of themselves and their vulnerabilities. And as one of our graduate students were talking about the social, some people were focusing on the social anxiety, and staying at home increase the social anxiety, or they're imagining that when they come back to campus, they have lost their social skills while staying at home. So maybe they need a refining of their social skills. There are lots of requests for certain well-being issues for different reasons. But we can see that coming back to campus after the COVID definitely have a certain, have shaped our new demands in counseling.
Thank you, Dr. Ala, very much. Dr. Ala has shared with us information about the services provided to students. I have shared with you on the chat some services provided by the clinic for staff and faculty on Sundays and Wednesdays, and you need to schedule an appointment for that. And I shared with you the email address of the medical services. I will turn to Dr. Yasmin, and I would kindly ask her to share with us the services provided by the Psychology Counseling Training Center. We've read in the announcement from the acting president, Abdurrahman, that he will be offering a seminar series during the fall, and this will continue into the spring. If you'd like to talk about that and any other services provided by the Psychology Counseling Training Center.
Sure. So the Psychological Counseling Services and Training Center is a training center that is part of the graduate program in counseling psychology. So it's a training center for our graduate students. So it's student operated, or it's managed by myself, but the students are the one that provide the services. So we provide individual counseling to students, undergrad and grad, staff, faculty, anyone who asks for our help from the AUC community. We're happy to welcome them, and if our services are deemed suitable for what they seek, we will definitely be happy to provide them. At this point in time, we've already scheduled, and I think it's going to be circulated across campus, 8 scheduled workshops and webinars. So it's going to be a mix between physically present on-campus workshops, obviously maintaining social distancing, and continuing with what we did in previous semesters, which was very successful, is to do online open webinars. These will be student run, and they will be on a variety of topics. We have 8, and they're going to be primarily in October and November. A lot of them are actually very suitable for what we're talking about today. Some of it is managing your stress and anxiety, making self-care a priority, coping with burnout, boosting how you feel, boosting your self-esteem, working when food becomes an emotional solution for when you're feeling stressed, etc. This will be actually circulated. It's probably already out there, and we will continue to circulate it with all the dates and times. It's on different dates and times. As for the other series that the provost announced, and this is something in the works that is being done, it's a series where we're going to bring in external experts from the field on different things, where it will probably open to a much wider audience, because we'll try to get some of the larger halls and have people attend, and they will be on whatever topics that actually people think they would be interested to know more about. A lot of it would be about things like kind of the question we got in the very beginning, is how to readjust to this stressful roller coaster, to this constant demand on one's attention, and to find the balance between managing different parts of your life as an employee, as a parent, as a partner or spouse, while doing all of this with return to campus and internal changes. These will also be announced in the coming 2 weeks. The problem is just trying to get the experts. We'll probably announce the fall ones first and then the spring.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yasmin. Dr. Kerry, as a department chair, I would like you to answer a question that was raised on the chat. What can department leaders do to help their colleagues or their students, of course?
I think that there are certain principles about how to help people deal with trauma and stress that we need to implement across the university for everyone. And this includes things like safety. People who have experienced trauma or long-term anxiety need to feel safe. So one of the ways we can help people feel safe is to wear masks, socially distance, follow the rules. This will help calm people's fears, especially since that was one of the main fears that people had. So that's something we can all do for each other, and administration, well, everybody really should enforce those rules, and that will help promote a sense of safety. It'll make us safer, and it'll help us feel safer. So that's a very important thing everybody can work on. Trustworthiness and transparency. So I think the university has, in general, on the survey, it showed that people felt the university had done a good job of communicating about what was going on with COVID and the decision-making around coming back to campus or going online. That needs to continue so that people continue to feel like they can trust the messages coming out of the university, and that there is transparent decision-making, and that again really helps. Peer support, as the students already talked about, and Salwa talked about, very important. And that's not just student-to-student support, but also colleague-to-colleague support, and faculty member-to-student support, and administration to faculty to student support. Collaboration, also very important to try to make decisions collaboratively and work together as we come back together. And to, provide people the opportunity for feelings of empowerment and choice as much as possible. I think if we can kind of have those sorts of attitudes as we come back together and we make decisions moving forward, that will help people feel safer and help us recover from the challenges that we faced in the last couple of years.
Dr. Kerry, I hope you can stay with us for the next question as well. As the department chair of psychology, there has been some collaborations that we would like you to talk about. There was collaboration between the department and the Center for Learning and Teaching. I'm happy actually to have Mahabali with us among the audience, and I will invite her in a minute to talk about that as well. But would you please elaborate a little bit about what sort of workshops or webinars will you be providing in collaboration with CLT? And also you have collaboration with the Center for Student Wellbeing. You developed a very informative online stress management toolkit. I will put the link to the toolkit on the chat in a minute, but please talk to us a little bit about these collaborations.
Well, Maha can probably talk about it better than I can, but we're in the process of figuring out what that collaboration will be like, and hopefully we'll use the model of peer support to have a support group for faculty to assist faculty with dealing with some of the kinds of responses and challenges that students are going to be facing in the classroom and that teachers will face. So hopefully we'll have that peer support group that will be co-led by a faculty member and somebody and Maha from the CLT. And then I think there will be some other things. I think the CLT is planning some workshops on trauma-informed education and some other things that'll be helpful, hopefully, to everyone. And then actually the collaboration with the psychology, between the psychology department and the Center for Student Wellbeing happened before, when the pandemic first started. When we went online, we developed this stress toolkit, stress management toolkit. It's still the techniques and things apply across all kinds of stress issues. So it's still a very useful document. So I hope people will access that. You're going to post that on the.
Yeah, I just shared it on the. I just shared the link on the chat.
Yeah, there's some great resources in there. So I hope people will take advantage of those.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carey. Maha, would you like to talk and tell us a little bit about the webinars? Please unmute yourself and. Maha? Please unmute yourself, Maha.
Okay, sorry, the unmute button wasn't clear. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this session and for having this initiative. And I'm very excited to be working with the Psychology Department and Student Wellbeing on this. So I think the main things Carrie has already said, and I just want to say a little bit more about the trauma-informed pedagogy that we hope to get a guest speaker on. Those trauma-informed principles that Carrie was talking about are important to apply in our own classes, right? In the way we design our courses. How do we design our courses so that they do not increase the stress and anxiety for students and they relieve them from the uncertainty and things like that? And at the same time, how do we as teachers make sure that as we care for students, it doesn't become an emotional burden on us? And how do we do this sort of in a collective manner so that not 2 or 3 faculty in every department are carrying all the emotional burden of everyone else when others are not? And so hopefully these supportive communities that we form together between psychology and CLT can support faculty both on the psychological end, but also on the pedagogy end, and they can then support each other. And the other thing that we've done actually recently, we've just published a newsletter by Professor Hanan Khulusi in history, talking about how she integrated well-being and happiness into her own classes. And so there are actually people who are finding ways of bringing this into part of what you teach. I know this is not possible in every class, but if students have 1 or 2 classes in their lifetime that help them with that, they can have an impact long term. And if faculty have other suggestions, please email me. My email is bali@auc, so BALI@auc. Let me know if you have other suggestions for things we can do that everyone can benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maha. We have a very important question, and I think this is common to many people in the Q&A box. A colleague is saying that during the period of remote work, she became a much calmer person. She developed a healthier relationship with her husband and her kid, and getting back to face-to-face work and having to be present on campus on a daily basis is a bit draining and exhausting, and it is changing her lifestyle. I would like to hear from our panelists. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Ola, because you talked about the adaptation to the change of going online in the first place and or remotely, and then adaptation again to go back face-to-face. Can you tell us a little bit about the different types of self-care activities for coping with stress that can help us in these kind of situations?
So definitely, when we stayed at home, every one of us had a different reaction towards our lifestyle in general, our daily routine, and how we bond with our loved ones, our family members, and so on. Let me, shall I answer the question first, or shall I go into the advice in general?
I think they're both related. Please answer the question.
Okay.
And
so
you will tell us about the different
if she became calmer and she's able to bond with her family better, and so let her try to reflect on what actually changed in her attitude. So definitely she will say that maybe she's not that exhausted, maybe she became not worn out at work, so she still have more and more energy to be able to give to her family, and more to be able to focus with them more, and so on. So whether it's the real work, whether it's the commuting, whether there might be multifactorial reasons for being on campus to be taking more of her energy and more of her calmness. So how can we maintain?
Ola, you're muted.
I'm sorry. If people were able to improve their well-being while staying during the remote work, they should actually reflect on what exactly changed. So they were doing a different kind of routine. Maybe they were sleeping better. Maybe they were doing, for example, they had more time for exercising. Maybe they were able to connect with their loved ones more. Maybe they had more time to, more quality time as regards the communication. So when, sometimes we tend to communicate in a very, I don't want to say a morbid, but we tend to miscommunicate and misunderstand and don't give proper time to our family members, because we think that we are busy, because we have these kind of assumptions on our mind, and because we are staying at home and we think that we don't have this time for commuting, I'm organizing my time better. This is more my time for work. And right now, instead of commuting, for example, I can make a meal for my family. Whatever the changes that this person had made during this remote work, she should try to analyze it and try to maintain something that was positive about this, that definitely made her calmer and better in her relationship with her family. What can I do in general to improve my well-being as a self-care thing? This should be done, on daily basis. Better routine. Wake up in the morning, trying to look forward, trying to think more positive thoughts. How will I use my day-to-day? Not to think about, oh my goodness, today is the day where I will meet whoever and I will have this horrible thing. Oh my goodness, I have this deadline. No, start at the beginning of the day, trying to think about something positive that will be the outcome of the day. Let us start our day with something more positive, and usually let this positive input at the beginning of the day, it is how we actually set up the tone for the whole day. If we set up the tone for the whole day that this meeting will ruin my day, then my day will be ruined, even if nothing happens. We will be, perceiving everything in a very negative way. Try as much as possible to not to take things personally, to reflect on things, as is. Sometimes when we're too exhausted, we start to over dramatize, blow things out of proportion. So if we keep like a thought record and a mood record, especially at the end of our day, to reflect on what had actually happened, and do like a very small stress journal. What am I doing to help myself ease my mood and improve my well-being? And what actually triggers my stress or my negative emotions? When we feel like we're losing it, we have to train ourselves to take some time out and try breathing exercises, deep breathing exercises and relaxation. Sometimes people say, no, I can't do it. No, it's very doable. There are lots of YouTube videos right now about breathing exercises. It's very trainable, it's very easy. And if done several times a day, like in the morning, at noon, and at night, it can really change how we perceive our days. There are even applications right now, something called Calm, an application called Calm, application called Headspace. Very useful. No matter how fidgety or angry or uptight you are, if you open this application, like you will actually feel calmer. Or even not necessarily an application, just think about a certain image on your mind that makes you feel happy or nice memories or whatever. At AUC on campus, we are privileged to have loveliest gardens and loveliest landscapes. Why don't we, like even when we park from somewhere when we go through the nature, like walking in nature, even if it's 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes while going to the campus, 10 minutes while walking out of the campus, like these kind of things that we enjoy. And we have to have like a certain period of time at the end of the day designated to my well-being. So for example, I love certain types of music. So this time is only for me, and I will do the things that I love, and I will hear my favorite kind of music, and I will let no one interfere in this specific time of the day, and this is my own time. You can have a bubble bath, you can have aromatherapy, you can do whatever while doing something you like. All these, and of course, there are endless ways of self-care. I'm sure also Yasmin and Kari have much more ideas other than mine.
Thank you, Dr. Ola. Dr. Yasmin, we'd like to hear from you about the different types of self-care activities. Maybe you can address a few words to our colleague. She's saying that she feels sad that she is adapting to this new situation. What would you like to tell her?
There is a little process of mourning of a loss of something that seemed so wonderful. And I think we have to allow ourselves that opportunity to mourn something. And in some ways it sounds weird to say mourn, but you feel like you're losing something, or you feel like you're feeling the sadness because not you're forced to adapt to this new situation, but you're going to miss something that you had that was clearly very positive, and now you feel like it's going to change or being taken away. So allow yourself the time to be sad. It's okay. And I think that's a huge thing that we all forget. We somehow have this sort of image that feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, feeling sad, whatever, feeling any negative emotion is a bad thing. And our primary focus should be to resist feeling that way. When in reality, it's actually, these are normal emotions that are telling you that there is something that you need to address. So embrace the sadness. I know it sounds very strange to say that. Don't resist it. Dealing with it is to say, yes, I am sad, and acknowledging the fact I do not like the fact that I have to adapt to this new situation, even though I know that I will. Accept the fact that you are overwhelmed, that it is stressful. And I think slowly, you can go back to kind of what Dr. Ola was saying, is find what it was that you think or you are going to miss from the past and how you can integrate it into the new old model. I guess that's what you were saying, the new old model. I think a lot of times that we realize that we have tons of coping mechanisms. Some of them may be things that we've never done. So I'm going to tell you about something that's happened to me since the return to face-to-face modality. I'm not sure why, but I'm usually a lot more fatigued and tired, and it's probably just readjusting to being around people, more people at the same time, where I don't have the control mute buttons anymore, and a lot of people are talking at the same time. So I've noticed that I get fatigued midday, and if I am at home, I typically need a nap, which is something I had never wanted to do. Since I allowed myself to take that nap, in the beginning, I used to always resist. Naps are terrible for productivity. You're going to sleep, then you're not going to be spending time with loved ones or finishing off your work or responding to emails. But since I allowed myself to do that, it's been so rewarding. I feel like I get a second wind after that nap, and I feel like I take care of myself, even if it's for that 45 minutes. It's something that is totally novel to me. And I'm fine. You know, in the beginning, I resisted it, and I'm fine with it right now. So I think that when we all focus on our goals and values, what is it that we're trying to get out of this? I mean, one of the things I always ask myself when I'm feeling frustrated is like, why am I working? Why do I do the work that I do? Why do I teach? Why do I work in this institution? And I just have to remind myself of my goals and values. And if I keep those in perspective, and I think for students, that's an important thing. Why do you go to campus? Why do you do your assignments? Besides wanting the grade and wanting the fantastic A or B or whatever, you're also pursuing something that is for your future. So we all of us have a goal and value that's related to the bigger picture. And sometimes our fears supersede that, and worries supersede the goals and values. And so they make us forget why we're doing that. And if we remind ourselves why we're doing that, it can sort of put us on the track of finding humor in the situation, undoing some of our negative talk. You know, I think we all do. I should be feeling a little bit more excited about this. I need to be doing this. I need to feel this way. You know, there's a lot of internal dialogues that we have about how we should behave. And sometimes it's like, there are no shoulds. You know, you should behave the way you feel like behaving, and take care of yourself and be self-compassionate and kind to yourself about not feeling okay. That's the first one. So these are some of my odd self-care activities.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Yasmin. I would like to hear from students. You mentioned that you were anxious coming back to campus. We'll start with Salwa. Tell us a little bit about the things that you've done, some self-care activities to adapt with this anxiety.
Okay, there are two different things that I do. When I'm on campus and it's a long day, and usually it's a bit stressful, I always find the time to center myself. And as Dr. Ala said about the campus having lots of nice trees, I always find like little lots of time to go out and just, you know, like scan myself. What's going on? Am I stressed? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to relax? Do I need to disconnect and watch the birds or watch the trees and relax a bit? This is like, I do that like a couple of times during the day, especially during long days. And I have like, I also like to journal, especially at the end of the day, like put all my thoughts on paper, set it aside and relax a bit. And I like to do physical exercise. I have my bike at home, and it's on a home trainer, and I cycle like an hour every day. And these are I just want to tell everyone that I feel that self-care is kind of, make it yours. It's like, it's different for everyone. Like Amina would talk about her self-care plan. It will be kind of different than mine. There are a lot of different things that you can do, especially, and also I think paying attention to how much coffee you drink every day, the diet you have, like things that would make you more physically better. These are important, but Amina can continue with her suggestions also.
Thank you, Salwa. Amina, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I agree with Salwa. I think self-care, the idea of self-care is very subjective, because what works for one person might not necessarily work for another. So for me, I agree with Dr. Ola that dedicating 1 hour a day for yourself, or just a small portion of the day for yourself, is really important. So sometimes I like to dedicate like 30 minutes or 1 hour after I've had a very busy day to just like read a chapter of a book or listen to music or something like that. And also, I think learning that taking a break is okay and not feeling guilty about taking a break every once in a while was something that I learned to be very important, because usually I like to always be productive, and taking a break makes me feel kind of guilty. So just giving yourself the space to say, okay, now I've done everything I can, and now I'm allowing myself to take a break, and it's fine. Even if you haven't done everything you can, it's fine to do that every once in a while. So these are the two main things.
Thank you, Amina. Thank you very much. I'm reminding my audience, if you have any questions, please either put them on the Q&A or raise your hand. Dr. Forden, we have a concern from several colleagues and students. We all know that as of September 19, 90% of the AUC community is vaccinated. And while we are very proud of our community vaccination rate, some members of our community are experiencing intense anxiety because they or their loved ones have asthma and respiratory problems, and they see many others not wearing masks or having their masks on their chins, and they're a little bit concerned. How can we enhance the sense of community during these unprecedented times?
Yeah, it's interesting. As we have this discussion, there's a lot of focus on individuals feeling anxious, on people doing self-care. But, you know, I'm a community psychologist, so I'm always thinking in terms of the community. And I think we need to think about our community's health as a whole, and how can we contribute to community resilience and just to building a healthier, more healthier and happier community. So I think that includes things like getting involved in the community, helps build sense of community, reaching out to other people, connecting, joining organizations. You see an issue, try to get some people together to solve it. Celebrating the good parts of what's going on campus, as well as noticing the hard parts, appreciating one another, you know, telling people when you notice that they're doing something well, or maybe we appreciate when people are wearing masks, as opposed to just getting angry when they're not. Noticing what we have in common, that we're all here for a common mission, to get educated. And to kind of, I think, one of the things that came out in the survey was, I think people were very excited about the opportunities that we have in front of us based on what we learned during what we've learned during the pandemic. And of course, we learned a lot from being online, and now we're learning a lot from coming back. And so I hope that everybody will contribute to taking the lessons that we've learned, not only to making our lives better as individuals, but making AUC a stronger community, a better university, a better place for all of us to be.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. Dr. Yasmin and Dr. Ala, we have an important question for you. If a person is experiencing anxiety and stress as a result of the return to campus and COVID, how does he or she know that it's time to seek help from a counselor? And at the same time, how can family and friends recognize warning signs? Dr. Yasmin, I'll start with you.
So I think the primary thing to know about when to seek help from a counselor, obviously you can always seek help from a counselor, but we always say it is best to try your own coping and management techniques. Try something first to see how you're able to manage, because some things will pass. Like I said in the beginning, stressful experiences are part of normal life. The other thing is, when we know something is becoming a little more problematic and it may need professional help, is when it's affecting your day-to-day functioning on a daily basis. It's more persistent. It's something that you're not able to shake off, you know, like you're not able to manage, like the things that you are used to doing are not working anymore. The things that you have tried have not been helping you function, meaning you're not able to keep up with your work. You're trying to avoid situations because they're becoming more and more difficult. You're anticipating more problems happening, even if they don't happen. You're just not feeling like yourself, and you're not able to get back into it. I think we all have those days when we wake up and today doesn't feel like a good day, but sometimes it can last that day, the second day, and then we're back to fine. If it persists a little bit longer than that and you're finding that you're not able to manage, that's definitely the time when you should probably be seeking help from a counselor. And family and friends typically are ones that recognize a lot of these signs because they're related to functioning or mood. When someone is just not being themselves or is not able to participate in their basic daily things as they would have normally. And I will pass to Dr. Ola if she would like to add on to that.
May I please remind our audience that the clinic is providing counseling sessions for faculty and staff on Sundays and Wednesdays, and you need to book an appointment through the email address of the clinic. It's on the chat. Dr. Ola, the floor is yours. What are the warning signs that require that we go to a counselor?
Actually, Yasmin said it all. Yeah, it's mainly that when the coping mechanisms that the person has already been always used to do, and it usually worked, when they are not no longer working, and the person, when we're here, of course, we're talking mainly anxiety following stress. We're not talking about general things. General, I mean mental health, other stuff. So it's always when things get out of proportion with the real thing. So something that is a normal daily event, and we get too anxious about it, or we become overly annoyed, or we tend to always expect the worst case scenario, or the most trivial announcement becomes, oh my goodness, what we will do towards this thing. So when we start, like catastrophizing normal events or things that became, like so much, we're always seeing the very blackish side of news or of events. And when, because of this catastrophizing attitude or mental phenomena that happens, this will get in the way of our normal performance, as Yasmin was saying. So it becomes, like our daily level of functioning becomes impaired. And this kind of anxiety will actually hinder our proper performance. So for students, they become too anxious to be able even to concentrate, to be attentive in class, or to finish their assignments because, like they are too stressed. And of course, being too stressed, they will procrastinate and imagining that they won't do it well. So the procrastination will cause delay. So the deadline will come, they become more anxious and they go into vicious circles, and things will get more, complicated. So when the person knows their level of course, every one of us can have some anxiety at certain times. And a bit of anxiety actually is usually what makes us motivated, what makes us wanting to compete, to be better, to perform. Performance anxiety a bit of performance anxiety is good for proper performance, but too much performance anxiety definitely will cause problems which will impair our proper function. So when things get in the way of our performance and our daily functioning, then we should seek help. And there is nothing, please, there is nothing wrong in seeking help. Nothing wrong in seeking help. We have a Center for Student Wellbeing. It's in every single American university worldwide. Nothing, please let us break this taboo, break this stigma of seeking professional help. These people are not, they want to help you. They are professional people, because up till this moment, we are in the year 2021, and some people are still reluctant to seek professional help because some people might think that they are weak or they cannot, for example, do it on their own. No, it's not like that at all. It's like any other kind of help in any kind of medical reason, for example.
Thank you, Dr. We have 2 minutes left, Dr. Carey, your final 1-minute advice to the community about how to enhance their resilience during this coronavirus pandemic.
Okay. This is a great way to sum up what the message of this conversation, because of course what we want is not only to come through this time of crisis, but to come out of it stronger. And so that's resilience, the ability to bounce back. So there's 4 components to resilience, all of which we've talked about. One is self-care. So taking care of yourself is important to becoming a resilient person. And resilience is something that you can practice and learn. Flexibility. So we've talked a lot about adapting to circumstances and learning to grow with change. And this is a great opportunity we've been given to do that, to learn flexibility. Working on relationships, building stronger relationships, and spending time with the people that matter the most to us. And then the last thing is meaning. Finding meaning, as Dr. Yasmin talked about, is very important to resilience. So thinking about the things that matter the most in our lives and the people that matter the most in our lives, and doing the things we need to make our lives meaningful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carey. Thanks to all our panelists for your time and the valuable information you shared very generously today. Thanks to all our attendees for joining us today and for your valuable questions. And we look forward to our next campus conversation. Until then, stay safe. Thank you very much.